Hi there. This is a very quick workshop that I hope will act as a bit of a refresher to people who are new to APA referencing, or perhaps you just need a little bit of a reminder about the most important things to remember as you begin to work on your next assessment piece. What you'll find in this video, what you can expect to see are just little reminders of how to cite a text inside a research paper and also in a reference list, and just some do's and don'ts in general when using APA referencing. So, if you can relate to any of these memes on the screen, then this is probably the right video for you. So we'll start with in-text citations. When we're using APA, there are some very specific do's that under the APA referencing style, if you're not doing these things, it can severely impact the flow of your paper and also perhaps impact the credibility of your work also. So it's important that you are adhering to the main requirements from APA referencing, the APA referencing guide, that is. And at the moment, we are using APA, the seventh generation of APA referencing. Okay. The basic must do's if we're using the APA standards are on the left hand side here. So if you are directly quoting a source, the most important thing is that you need to make sure that you include these three things. So we have the author, the year of publication, and the page number must be included in your reference. So my biggest thing here is do include the page number. Quite often people directly quote and they just forget to put in the page number, which means that your citation is incorrect. So what does that look like? On the right-hand side here, just make sure that you are using, whenever you're putting in a page number, the abbreviation P, and then it must have a full stop next to it. That's if it's just for one page. So let's say page 1. If I'm citing multiple pages, because perhaps the quote that I'm using goes over 2 pages, I may use PP full stop, okay? And that's just for multiple pages. Um, so, for example, using the dash, if you've got multiple pages, might look like this. Okay. So, my first example is Jones 1998, page 199. That's just for one page number. Or Jones 1998, pages 199 to 201. So, that's a must if you're using anything that is directly said by an author or authors and you haven't paraphrased and you haven't, I guess, summarized it into your own words. The second do is that if you're referring to any idea from another work that is not your own ideas, but you're not directly quoting the material as we've just mentioned in the first example, you might still need to make reference to the book or the article or perhaps the website that you've used. So you do still need to reference the author and the year of publication, but you do not need to worry about the page number because it's not a direct citation. So what does that look like? On the right-hand side here, you can see, according to Taylor, and in brackets I have 1998, APA style is a difficult citation format for first-time learners. You could also do it this way. APA style is a difficult citation format for first-time learners. Because those are my own words, and I've just merely taken the idea that APA style is difficult, I can just put the reference in brackets, but I don't need the page number, and I also don't need to worry about quotation marks, which I'm going to talk about now. So when you are directly quoting, as we did in this first example here, you also need to make sure that you are including quotation marks. So that just, I guess, signifies or indicates to the reader that these words are exactly what you're quoting from the author. So on the right-hand side here, according to Martin's 1998, you can see I've referenced, I put in the quote, and you may want to, at the end, instead of putting it all in the beginning, for, I guess, a better flow and readability, you can put page 199 at the end. As long as that is somewhere in that sentence and it's not completely left out, the page number is still there, okay? You can see here that in the second example, Martins found that students often had difficulty using APA style, and then page 199 is inserted. I prefer to do it at the end because I just think it's neater and easier for the reader. So these are just some basic must-dos, and I think that these are some of the most important things, and they're really easy to get right, just as long as you make sure that you're actually doing them and that you're consistent. The next thing is long quotations. Now, the APA referencing style doesn't really lend itself to having big chunks of text that are quotes. It actually prefers that you paraphrase where possible or summarize where possible, unless you really can't say the words of the author in any better way. In that case, this should be used in small phrases rather than whole long sentences. However, there is perhaps one or two occasions where you think that a larger chunk of text is so important that it must be included in your own literature review or your research paper. So, if you have a quotation that is 40 words or longer, then it must be formatted in this way that you can see on the right hand side here. So it should be placed in a freestanding block of typewritten lines, and you don't necessarily need to have quotation marks. So, how we indicate that it is a direct quote is that we start the quotation on a new line, indented about half an inch from the left margin. So, really in the same place that you would begin a new paragraph, but you'll notice here that it is indented, okay, half an inch here. So, it's actually inside the rest of the text that comes before and after, all right? You then need to type the entire quotation on that new margin. So you'll notice that all of this here is indented, okay? And you need to make sure that every line keeps within this half an inch margin. You can do this in your formatting settings if you're using Microsoft Word or Google Docs. You should also maintain double spacing throughout. So double spacing is something that is usually preferred in any type of academic writing. So you want to make sure that you maintain that throughout. The last thing is that you need to make sure that you include the source citation, and it should come after the closing punctuation mark. So you'll notice here that the page number has been put in at the end here, and that's because this person has said Jones's study found the following, included the quote that is 40 words or longer, and then still put the page number at the end here. So they have correctly referenced. That's really important if ever you have a quote that is 40 words or longer. If it's under 40 words, you do not need to do this. Okay, let's talk about in-text citations. So if we are citing multiple authors, that is more than one author, even more than two authors, there's a couple of things that you need to just be aware of. Now, to make this easy for you, I have just taken this from the Auckland University of Technology. This is a really good, simple, easy way to figure out, well, how do I reference if it's an in-text reference, and how should it look in my reference list, okay, at the end of my paper. So if I have one author, you can see here, this is how it should look as an in-text citation that's within my writing. And if I am including this in my reference list, which if it appears in your work, in your assignment, then it should make its place as well in the reference list. So 2 authors, 3 authors, 21 authors if you must. You might want to take a screenshot of this as well. Just it's a great little go-to guide for yourself. And AUT is also a great source that I will share with you later on as well. So an easy way to figure out, well, how do I reference if I have more than 2 authors? The biggest change with APA 7 is that if you have 3 or more authors, anywhere between 3 and 20 authors, you can use et al. Okay, and you can have a look here and see that. Reference list. When we're talking about our reference list, there's a couple of things that we need to pay attention to. I've just picked out 3, probably the most common sources that we find. When we're referencing a journal article, if you have a look at this little table here, and if you have a look at some of the abbreviations, there's a very specific way of referencing journal articles, especially with APA referencing. So what you need to ensure is that you're following this order here. Okay, you can pause this if you need to and just have a detailed look at it. This is a really easy way to remember what comes first, what comes last. An easy way to remember with a journal article, particularly if it's online, is that the DOI or the URL should come last. Okay, if we're looking at a book, for example, it's pretty similar. Sometimes you might be using an online version of a book. So again, you'll notice at the end that there is a URL or a DOI included, but you may not need that because it could be a hard copy of a book. So again, have a little read through this little diagram. It's very informative, and it's helpful anytime that you're referencing a book, whether it be online or hard copy. And lastly, probably a really common one sometimes as well is referencing a website. So when you're referencing a website that is not a book, but actually just a site, there's a specific way that you still need to reference this as well. Okay, and we always start with the author, we continue with the year and the date, and then the title, and then we go with the URL, which should also include the website name. Last but not least, I just want to leave you with some really helpful tips, a couple of very useful websites that I think would really help you if you're struggling with APA referencing or if you just need a refresher. The first is the Auckland University of Technology, and I've included the link here for you. And the other is Purdue University Online Writing Lab. Both of these are really, really excellent resources. They will show you how to reference videos, documentaries, some of the things that I've spoken about in this video as well. And I recommend going on there, having a little look, and anytime you have an assessment, just making sure that you are using any of these resources to help you out, because they've even got an online citation generator for you that is very accurate, unlike some of the others that you may find on Google. So definitely save one of these websites to your tab. And I hope this has been a very helpful and useful video, and hopefully you can benefit from some of this information.